everyone. Happy Friday.
Hello.
Hope you all are doing well. It's good to see all of you here. And I hope you guys all had a wonderful week. So tonight I'm going to have 3 special guests with me to discuss the death of the dollar and what that collapse might look like, as well as some of the things that we can do to prepare now. So right now I have with me Prepper Dawg, and we should have Prepping with Sarge joining us in just a moment, as well as PrepperNow. So I'm going to give them a chance to introduce themselves in just a minute. But for a second, I want to go ahead and greet some of you guys that have come in. So let me come over here to chat. Hi, Michelle J. Good to see you. Hi, Lee. Awesome to see you. Thanks for modding tonight. Hi, Rita. Good to see you. Johnny Finance. Hi, Cynthia. Hi, Frank. Vancity, awesome to see you. Thanks for modding. Pepper Prepper's here. Hi, Mrs. Dawg. Christian Prepper is here. Bouger, hello. Hi, Uncle Al. Did I get everybody? Hi, Karen Shoot. And Dove Season 91. Welcome, everyone. If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. I was just kind of scrolling through. So I'm going to go ahead and let Prepper Dawg introduce himself. I see PrepperNow has jumped in, so we will add him into the stream. So Prepper Dawg, if you want to take a moment and just introduce yourself and your channel.
Sure. Thanks for having me. And if you haven't watched me before, then you can just find me. I'm only on YouTube and Prepper Dawg, and I've been on for about a year and a half or so, maybe longer. I haven't kept up, but I focus a lot on just different kind of preparations, but mostly I focus. I do a lot of videos about current events. I focus on the United States, North America, but also international with events going on around the world as well, especially if they affect us here. And so I talk a lot about how we should be prepared about what's happening in our country and with the economy, with just all kinds of social, political, and just especially the last several years, so much going on, and how we just need to stay awake and focused and from a Christian viewpoint.
Awesome. Hello, PrepperNow. Good to see you.
Hello. How are you?
Hey.
Awesome. How are you?
Wonderful. It's good to be with you both.
So do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself to those who may not know who you are? Give a little brief synopsis of your channel.
Sure. My name is PrepperNow. I've been on YouTube since March of 2020. I started as a channel that wanted to help suburban dads and their family as this whole thing was going on in real time. And then I found out that there's a lot of great channels out there, and I thought I could add a little bit more value from my background. And my background is in political science and education. And so I kind of have gone from like a prepper channel more into a current events and political analysis. And so, I've gotten some things wrong, but I've also gotten some things right. And, I just try to be, I try to give everybody a little bit of a head start on everything. I'm proud. There's been a bunch of stories as of late I've covered about 2-3 days before people, like the Vatican money thing. I was doing that. I think I did that 4 days ago, and it really started to come out like a day or two ago, where the Pope was saying by September 30th they needed to have all the Vatican monies into the bank and not spread around. So just things like that. I try to peruse the net and find things that I think are of importance as it pertains to politics, money, economics, finance, prepping, the whole 9 yards.
Awesome. So we're still waiting on Prepping with Sarge to join us. He was actually streaming right before me. He is a part of that collaboration that's going on right now for the Preparedness Month.
Oh, very cool.
So he was doing that live, and I think he just finished up and he needed to take care of his dog really quick, but he should be here any minute. and then I will give him a second to introduce himself as well. So I guess I'll go back and chat for a second and say hi to some other people that popped in that I see. I see Apartment Prepper here. Hello, good to see you. Hi, in my crosshair. Daryl is here. Hi, Linda from Linda's Prepper Kitchen. Ronan Prepper. X24 is here. Hello. Yeah, so he's still not quite here. So we would just go ahead and get started on this. For those of you that are new or maybe new to my channel, I do open this up for some Q&A towards the end of our conversation. And when I do that, if you guys would go ahead and put your questions in all caps, it would be much appreciated because sometimes it's hard to see those. So my first question for you guys is, do you see just a weakening of the dollar, or do you see the death of the dollar in the near future?
I would say, I thought about this. This is one that I was talking to you about earlier. Like I may overthink this, but as far as the near term, I just see it continuing to weaken. I don't know if I see it completely die out and a death real soon. Now I could be totally off on that. Of course, it can happen, but I think it's just going to continue to weaken for a while, or it could just stay like it is for a while longer than we think, and just putter along and then take a nosedive or just slowly continue to weaken. So in the near term, um, I don't think it'll completely go down. That and I'm probably a lot of people will disagree with that. But that's just that's the way I've been thinking just here recently.
What do you think, PrepperNow?
I agree. I think that it's still useful for a lot of reasons right now, but there is a slow erosion going on. You got the BRICS rising up. It's not a good look for what's happened a year ago in Afghanistan, and then last week a few days ago with Iraq. I just think all of it is kind of a slow chipping away at its hegemony, and um, I'd say in the next 2 to 5 years, it's going to start to really get challenged. Now, what that looks like afterwards, I don't know, but the purchasing power will get less and less. The inflation will get more and more. I had a long conversation with my parents today. They're big investors, and they don't know what to do with their money, and they're trying to do protective things. And like, should we put it into silver? Should we do this? And they're big stock people, and I said, honestly, Dad, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't, because it's just so tumultuous right now. And so we'll see. They're very smart. They'll figure it out. What we're doing here is just putting things into physical things. I've got money in the bank, but it's not a whole heck of a lot. I try to keep enough that we can handle an emergency, but at the same time, I'm building gardens and we're building fencing. We're getting animals, and I'm trying to make it so we can produce our own food and all that. So the dollar is here for now, and it probably will be, but every reserve currency eventually historically dies. And we're at about that mark. It's usually about, 80 to 100 years, and we're right there.
Right. So I just want to say thank you really quick to In My Crosshair for the donation. That was very kind of you. So I appreciate that. So for me, I spent some time thinking about this. I mean, I definitely see a continuing weakening of the dollar now. And none of us really knows if it's going to, die sometime in, the next several months or the next couple of years. That's anyone's guess. But like you were saying, we can definitely see that the powers that be want to collapse. And we see what's happening with the BRICS Pact and the shift away from the US dollar as that world reserve currency. One of the things that I did find, I thought this was kind of interesting. It was on Investopedia, and they were coming up with some conceivable scenarios that might cause a sudden crisis for the dollar. And I thought these were interesting because each one of them you can see beginning to happen. So they said the most realistic is the dual threat of high inflation and high debt, a scenario in which rising consumer prices force the Fed to sharply raise interest rates. So we're already seeing that trend. It does say that if the U.S. government struggled to afford its interest payments, foreign creditors could dump the dollar and trigger a collapse. They say another option would involve some major powers, such as China, reinstating a commodity based standard and monopolizing the reserve currency space. And I feel like, some of that monopolization is already starting to take place, like we just mentioned with the BRICS. And they said, if the Federal Reserve creates money and the US government assumes and monetizes debt faster than the US economy grows, the future value of the currency could fall in absolute terms. And that made me think, of just what we've witnessed already at the beginning of the year with the GDP that's already fallen 1.6% in the first quarter, and then another 0.9 in Q2. So, things aren't looking that amazing. It does look like we are trending more in that direction. And then this other thing I thought was kind of interesting too is that Wikipedia says an economic collapse could consist of persistent trade deficits, wars, revolutions, famines, depletion of important resources, and then government-induced hyperinflation. So just things to kind of file away in the back of our mind, I feel like. So my next question for you guys, what would an economic collapse of that magnitude possibly look like for the US and even for the rest of the world?
That's hard to envision. I think that, and I'm not an expert. I'm not a financial expert by any means, but
No.
What would it look like? I think that you could have just a depression or worse, to where, like the old Weimar Republic, where it takes a barrel load of dollars just to buy a loaf of bread, or even less than that. And you could have mass poverty on just on a mass scale, and bread lines, and just look at third world in most places, except for the elite 1%, maybe. I mean, that's a stark thing, picture, I guess. But it could really look like it. But that it wouldn't just be here. I think it would crush Europe, and or maybe even them before us. I think it would be world. I think it'd be global. So we're so connected. We're so interconnected now.
We are.
In a lot of ways right now. And one thing I was thinking about also is that, we don't produce much anymore. We're just consumers.
No.
And so an economy based just on consuming, being a consumer, just cannot sustain. I just don't think it can. I mean, we've been puttering along, but unless we can get something back to where we're producing more, that's one of the major concerns for me.
Well, I think you hit a lot of excellent points. We are global. So if China catches a cold, then the rest of the world's going to be sneezing and stuff like that. So Europe is really, I mean, we're actually kind of lucky from what I've seen. Europe is in a really precarious state right now for a lot of different reasons, most specifically because of the oil thing with Russia. And today they basically said there's a air quotes leak, and they're shutting down the Nord Stream, which is effectively shutting down the gas to Europe. And I mean, there are people that are sitting in lines in Poland and Germany for literally days to get heating oil, to get coal, to get firewood. There's a real problem. The only thing I keep coming up with these, and I'm trying to stay solutions based, and you have to be, because you can get all super depressed. So you have to think of the solution, right? And the only thing that keeps rattling in my head is kind of what Dawg zeroed in on, is that we're not the kind of economy where we produce anymore. We are a service economy as it pertains to how they term it in economics. We just do financial services and stuff like that. We have to become producers. We have to make our own food. We have to make our own energy. It doesn't mean you have to make it all, but I think right now I would behoove people to really start to focus in on being able to do things where they can at least go in with other people to get food. My wife and I are about to put in a big order to Azure Standard, and we're prepping in the background the whole way, because I mean, even she sees it, and she's, I always lovingly call her a normie on here. But she can read the tea leaves, and she sees it, she feels it. She's currently in bed. She's got Rona part 2.
Oh
So
no.
No, no.
uh, well, that's the thing. Now I've had it. This is my second time, which I kind of found out about it after the fact,
Oh
and
my
I'm totally
goodness.
through it and fine. So if anybody wants to know what it's like to have it twice, it actually gets easier. So, but
Good.
anyway, um,
Oh, sorry to hear.
yeah, it's okay. She's okay. She actually said the same thing. She's just tired. She's a 3 days behind me, but yeah, I just people need to produce their own stuff. We need to get. It's a good thing to store food. It's another thing to grow food and things like that. So I think really people really got to get into their own creation, or whatever that may be, from energy to food,
Mhm.
because it will turn into a depression pretty quickly, and the corner will be turned pretty quickly. I don't think people understand it takes a long time to get there, but when the dominoes start falling, they start falling, and you have to be prepared and nimble for that.
Exactly. Um, so for me, I feel like if the US's economy fully collapses, then like you guys were saying, everyone everywhere is going to feel it. It's not going to just impact the US, it's going to impact the world because
Mhm.
all of our economies are hinged on the dollar. And I feel like it could be so devastating that, goods would cease to flow, hyperinflation could take off, large companies would go under, unemployment would skyrocket, and we would enter a depression, most likely a lot worse than the Great Depression, because so many people are not as self sufficient as they used to be. And people have become so reliant on that just in time inventory that they've lost a lot of those vital skills that are necessary to power through something of that magnitude. So, what you have now would most likely be what you had to make it through. So, some goods would still be available, but could you afford them? So, one of the questions that I've been thinking about for myself is, would they reset us at that point, or would we enter into a global conflict? The last time we had a depression of that magnitude, we entered into a world war. So I think there is a possibility that that would also be waiting for us on the horizon. And the governments of the world could then choose to battle it out for the remaining resources. And then eventually, whether it's a new superpower or a collective idea, a solution would emerge that would probably, enslave the rest of us. So that's just what I've been thinking. I do see that it looks like we finally have Prepping with Sarge, so I'm going to add him in here. Hello. Good to
Hello.
see you.
Good to see
Awesome to
you.
have you on here. So, do you want to go ahead and introduce your channel for those that do not know who you are before I ask you this question?
Yes, Prepping with Sarge. So I am on Instagram and YouTube, both as Prepping with Sarge, and we do a lot on my channel. We do a lot of foraging. We do actually talk a little bit about financial preparedness too. So hopefully I can be throwing in some contributions tonight. Do of course gardening and a little bit of wilderness survival in there too.
Awesome. So the question that I was just asking the panel is, what do you think an economic collapse of a large magnitude might possibly look like for the US and the rest of the world?
It would definitely be pretty chaotic. And I mean, I think of, some of the stories my grandmother had told me about the Great Depression. And we would have, of course, as businesses collapse, as the monetary system collapses, loans would start to, first, there would be no loans available, right? So that would affect a lot of big businesses and things like that. At first, so layoffs would happen. A lot of people would be out of work pretty quick. I think everybody kind of knows what a bank run is. So you'd have massive tons and millions of people trying to get all their money out at the same time. And of course they don't, where any given bank doesn't have that much cash sitting in it so that if all their customers came in at the same time to cover it. So it's backed by the full faith and trust of the US government. But if the dollar's not worth anything, the other thing is from a world perspective, so that's the initial stages. You'd see people doing bank runs and you'd see businesses doing layoffs really, really fast. From a world perspective, the US dollar is seen as the reserve currency. Even still, like we talk about how messed up things may seem on our economy right now, compared to most of the rest of the world, we're still doing better than most of the rest of the world. So if the US dollar is not seen as the reserve currency, there would be worldwide chaos for a while until another world, dominant preferred currency emerges.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So do you guys, has something similar happened historically that we could utilize as sort of a blueprint?
I'll start here because I always feel like I get the last word, and I want these gentlemen to get a chance too. I mean, like you said, the Great Depression, war is the great debt clearer. I think there is an excessive amount of debt that is in the world right now, and so whenever that happens, I mean, the usually the answer to the people that are quote unquote running the show is to go in there and get us into a big huge fight. And I mean, all the chess pieces are lining up for that. I mean, you look what's going on in the South China Sea. You already got it live and rolling in Eastern Europe, and I don't think we even know the half of it of what's going on because you hear about like today with the Nord Stream getting cut off. I mean, there had to be something that angered him to make that happen. And then there's the whole Zaporozhye, nuclear power plant. They go into the IAEA and it basically starts getting shelled, and they're like, we're not going in there. So war is basically we're kind of already there. It'll just take a few more twists of the screws to get the other players involved and everybody to get on their side of the soccer field. But it will clear the debt, and it will basically set us up for the next system. If you look back at Bretton Woods, I mean, that's how it got started. And I don't think the dollar will be there, or it'll be, if anything, a basket of currencies, as they say, or a strategic drawing rights, the SDR, where they'll all have them like the yen, the yuan, the ruble, yada yada yada. But it's coming. It really is. I don't think it's terribly far off. I don't think it's next week. I don't even think it's next month. But everybody's picking their sides, and eventually they're going to throw the ball into the field, and it's going to get rolling.
Yeah,
I would agree. Good points there. I agree with that. I think the Great Depression is a good example. But I think this could be worse than the Great
I do
Depression.
too.
I mean, it really could. It could make it pale in comparison. And like Prepping by Faith said, you mentioned this earlier, because back then, during the Great Depression, a lot of people were already like preppers. You didn't call them preppers, but they were very sustaining. But now it's like people think they get, the green beans grow in the grocery store, or, at least it seems that way. And, another example, I guess, would be the Weimar Republic, the pre-World War II Germany, 1920s. I think about that as well. I was going to mention this earlier. I have a cousin in Germany, and I messaged him last night. I haven't talked to him in a while, and just to see how things are going there. And he returned the message this morning, my time. And I'm trying to get more details out of him, but he's usually pretty upbeat. But I just asked him the question, like, how are things going? It was just kind of general, like, we're hearing a lot of things going on over there with economy and everything, and the rising prices. And all he said was, it's a disaster. Germany is a disaster right now. And I cannot find the words to describe it. I cannot, I cannot find the words right now. And I've never heard him be that way about things. And so that was eye-opening. So if I can get more details, I'll share. But he's in West Germany.
I agree with both of what PrepperNow and PrepperDawg are saying. The war is always one of the ways that the whole reset can happen. We've actually had, people may not realize that we've had a currency reset in this country when we went off the gold standard. And then what's that?
I said 1971. Excellent.
Yep. And then, of course, the phasing out of silver from our currency was also, a soft reset, but it is a currency reset. We can only speculate, but there is information out there, that the U.S. government is working with MIT to develop a digital currency that will be very trackable. One thing that our government hates, and actually probably all world governments hate, is an untrackable currency. They want to know how you're spending your money, how much money you're making, more importantly, so they can tax the crap out of it. And so the digital currency is called Project Hamilton. People can look that up if they want. And when it's released, I don't know. I'm not privy to that information.
Right.
It's but what will happen is people, so I think a lot of people who are crypto enthusiasts will say, well, people won't go for that because it's trackable, but I don't believe that. I think the majority of people will, because they don't know what that means. And if the US government says this is our new currency, I mean, we're saying if they say that this is our new currency, 90%, maybe 95% of the population will just like, okay, we switch over, and that's that. And so not only that will it change how we use money, but cryptocurrencies, the existing ones, would be very much in trouble as money comes out of that and pours into this Project Hamilton coin or whatever they decide to call it. Now, again, this is all just speculation, but that's one way it could happen. We've been in proxy wars basically as long as I've been alive. Of course, it's been amped up since 9/11, but I was born in the 70s, and there was always some kind of proxy war being fought, going back to Afghanistan or somewhere else in the world. And a lot of money flows around with that kind of stuff too, right? So average people, average little peasants like me, I'm not going to be privy to like the final steps as they're being put in place. But when there's a proxy war going on and $80 billion is being shifted around, a lot of money gets moved around. I don't know where it ends up. Do you? In theory, we're told it goes to XYZ, humanitarian aid or weapons or whatever, but is anybody tracking that? Is anybody following where it's going? Is it publicly accountable? Is it publicly auditable? So I agree. There's definitely some concerning signs. Another thing to be aware of is a debt jubilee, right? So if people are not aware of what a debt jubilee is, that's when a government says all debt is clear, right? And so will you and I benefit from that? Probably not. Nobody's going to tell you don't have to pay your mortgage.
Well, they'll tell you don't have to pay your student loan, though, right?
They do that, right? But who's going to get the most debt clearance if you think about it, right?
Right.
It's not going to be you or me. It's
No.
going to be the government, number one, probably some of the big corporations that support players in that. And so when you start seeing money being spent as it has been, and not just the last couple of years, but really the last 10 years, the amount of money that's just being printed and spent, it's almost like we don't care about the debt anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not even a concern. And why would it not be a concern unless you have no intention to ever pay it down? Which
I don't think they do. Really awesome points there, by the way, from all three of you. So for me, while I do see the Great Depression as a parallel, I think what's coming is going to be unlike anything we've ever witnessed before in history. So what I see is a culmination of events from famine, war, pestilence, global collapse, and then a restructuring where every human being is being sold into a digital slavery to the global entity controlling it all, the beast system, if you will. And no one's going to be able to buy or sell, save the mark, and no one's going to be able to participate in the reset society unless they're willing to comply with all of the requirements. So even then, I think there are going to be some limitations as to what you can do and how much of something you're allowed to buy, participate in, eat, etc. And it's going to be a complete takeover of your bodily autonomy, and you will be another drone in the hive. I think that's what's coming, what we're being set up for. So my next question for you guys is, do you think the death of the dollar entails more than just a financial collapse?
Yes, it's going to be everything, really, if you think about it. Mm-hmm. To play on the CBDC thing, they are beta testing some structural stuff right now in this thing called FedNow. Which Lael Brainerd, who's one of the Federal Reserve people, kind of lovingly talked about on this big Zoom meeting a few days ago. And the next 6 months to a year, they plan to get the structures and everything out by I think July of 2023. But I think a lot of people poo-poo this and just are like, oh well, it's never going to happen. Cash will always be there. Right. I don't think so. There's already societies on Earth that do not have cash. It means a robust barter system is going to get going, but it also means that if the government can put its fingers in every pie, well, this is the best way to do that, and they're going to want to do that. They want to be there in between you and giving the $10 to the local Boy Scouts, or buying a sofa at a yard sale, stuff like that. They want to be involved in everything to get that little bit of taxes. So, I mean, the death of the dollar, nobody can pinpoint an exact time of it, but like the I guess the wake of what that would look like will be something that I don't think people will be prepared for. And I think Sarge said it, where people just kind of want to go along to get along, and so they'll bring it in and they'll be like, oh, that's this cool new thing, and let's get on board, and they'll sell it, and they'll have great shiny advertisements for it and everything. Meanwhile, basically everybody's helping them take the key and turning it onto the locked position of the B system. And so, I try to encourage people as much as possible to use cash as much as possible. I try to use cash, whenever I can. Go in, you buy something. It's, I'm not going to buy my groceries with it, but other things like that. Just keep the cash in the system. But it's gonna, I think, inevitably, because people, I don't want to call them lazy, but just don't think of this stuff. Don't think of the repercussions. Are going to just go along to get along, and it'll get in, and then all of a sudden they're going to be looking up, and everything that they used to be able to do on their own volition is now going to have the government in between them and whoever the transaction is. And so, if the dollar dies, it's going to have a bunch of stuff. It's going to mean that we're going to be hyperinflation. It means that all of our property values are going to go down. It means that basically what happens is all the other countries that hold our reserves and their reserves will send them home. They'll be like, okay, well, this isn't worth as much. Let's send it home. I'll take that transaction back. We'll put it into the yuan, which is the new reserve currency, and we'll build up reserves that way. And then all that comes back, and then all of a sudden everything is hyperinflated like Weimar Germany.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think it's good points. I agree. I think that the vast majority, and I agree that a high percentage of people would gladly get in line right away to trade freedom for the convenience. I mean, even right now, I'm trying to make more of a conscious effort to use cash. Now, I don't, like PrepperNow said, in the grocery store, I typically don't. But if I'm just getting things at the at the racetrack or Quick Trip or something like that, or just going out to eat, gasoline, I'm using cash as much as possible. And but there's a part of me that wants to believe that there would be pushback and a counter revolution, and enough people would wake up and really make it difficult for this to happen. But in reality, I don't know if it would. I don't know if it will. Maybe at some point along the line it will. I mean, it would have to get to a point to where people just have nothing else to lose, but I don't know where that happens. But I think war could be part of it. There's so much, that we were talking about this earlier, but the Ukraine Russia conflict, there's so much about that it's like we're in the dark. We don't really know what's going on there. It's like this. We think it's going on. We don't really know many details, and what's every day is just kind of forgotten in a way. So it's concerning.
When you talk about all this stuff, like from the macro level, it all sounds like really far out there, but then you look at it step by step over the last 10 years, right? So even something little like in the last couple of years, they passed a bill that if you make over $600 being a soccer mom selling knit scarves on Etsy, they want to know, and they want your money for like, $600, and everyone's like, oh, that's stupid and silly, but then they shrug and move on. And that thing is telling. It tells you exactly, like, they want to know every penny that's being spent all around the world, especially if it's involved like U.S. currency, whether it be the dollar or the Project Hamilton coin or whatever the heck they decide to call it. They want to know if you bought, not that I think anybody should smoke, but if you bought a pack of cigarettes, they want to know if you bought a pack of cigarettes. If you bought, how much whiskey did you buy this month, right? How much did you spend on Cheetos this month? And then who knows why? we can speculate, but the biggest reason is tax. They want to be able to tax everything. And right now with cash, there's a lot of money that floats around. I don't know the volume of that, but it's untrackable. It's untraceable. Even with silver and gold, like if you had half an ounce of gold and you went to a local, depending on where you live, because different states now have some different laws on this already, but in a lot of parts of the country, you could still bring half an ounce of gold into a coin dealer and get paid in cash, and it's a private, personal, anonymous transaction. Well, guess who doesn't like that?
Right.
Say I want to hire a prepper dog to come mow my lawn, and we settle something between us, and I say, you know what, I'll give you $50 cash, and he says I'll do it for 60, and I say, how about 55? And I'll throw in some pre-65 dimes with that, and he says deal. Right now, it's doable. Whether or not it's legal, because they don't like the barter system either, but it's doable, and they don't like the fact that it's doable and there's no way for them to trace it.
Right. So for me, I kind of viewed this a little bit different, I guess, than you guys did, slightly. So I think that once the dollar has collapsed, it's going to usher in a new era. It's going to be an entirely new way of life. It's going to be much more than a financial collapse of a fiat currency. It's going to be a collapse of our morals, a collapse of the American dream. It's a collapse of our freedoms, and I feel like a collapse of our culture. And we've been told repeatedly that they want, sameness, that everyone will own nothing and be happy. And this collapse, I think, would signify the beginning of a new era to usher in, the Antichrist and his evil regime. And whether people want to admit it or not, we are in a very real battle for our souls. And these people don't just want to make us miserable. They want to control us on many levels, so that we become another cog in the wheel. And once we merge with AI, are we even human any longer? That's the question that's been going around in my thoughts, in my mind lately. So what new system do you see being implemented once this one collapses? I think we've kind of started to touch on this one a little bit with the CBDC.
Yeah, I mean, that's what they're putting the infrastructure for.
Mm-hmm.
They'll sell it as quick time payments and ease, and instead of going a place and having they'll have some commercial where the guy's clunky at the register and he can't find it, and the change is pouring out, and the grandma behind him is got the stern look on her face, and then she hands him the FedNow coin Hamilton wristband or whatever, and buys it for the guy, and thanks grandma, that kind of, that's what I see. What I mean? It's going to be all this goofy crap like that. And
you're good at that, prepper now.
Oh man, I see it. I see this stuff, and it's so aggravating. I remember when I was growing up, my mom, I was not a good driver in high school. My mom would say, every time you go out that door, it's like, I can see you getting caught by the speed camera. I can see you getting, not watching and rear-ending someone. Like, I can see it coming down. And sure enough, I got into a couple wrecks in high school. I just see it, all these train wrecks coming, and I just feel like I'm the only one sometimes. And thank God for the three of you, because you're smart and you see it too. They're just people aren't aware. They're just so caught up in their own little worlds. They don't see all these little formative changes that are happening in our world. And it really is going to become something along the line of slavery, really.
Exactly.
And, I've been getting more and more into my faith. And one of the reasons why is because when you see all this stuff, you just like, it's
biblical, right? I mean, you can't get away from it.
It's been told before.
Mm-hmm.
It would be one thing. I mean, it's just like we're checking the boxes here.
Yes.
Until it all just goes down the line. And that's what's kind of led me along. I'm amazed really at everything. And I'm just like, this can't be a coincidence.
No.
So, and
it's literally a battle of good and evil. And we're just seeing it unfold.
Yeah, it really is. And, I got small kids. I know you do too. And you just, I just want to be as good a father as possible and try to shepherd them through all this. And I always feel like I fall short. But I see it all around me, and it's scary, but you want to stay positive because you don't want to scare your kids. And I don't know, it's just a big thing, and it's all, it just messes with me sometimes. But I see a whole bunch of train wrecks coming, and I don't know. I'm trying I know you guys are trying, and that's all we can do.
Yeah.
Well, it's no secret that they've been attacking Christianity and for
Oh,
quite a
yeah.
while now. It's been by design and for quite a while. So that will continue and continue to amp up. They want to replace God,
Yes, they do.
government, those the powers that be, um, and they want the more control, the more they can get, you know, and I think they'll get a lot of it. I think you hit on it a while ago, prepping by faith. You mentioned this is AI. I thought about this the other day too. Is artificial intelligence is going to be, it's already more powerful than people believe. It's in our everyday, in the media and the internet and websites, and I think that's just going to grow exponentially. So I think that'll be a big part of it as well. It's hard to know what it'll look like, you know, details, but this metaverse thing, I don't know what, I haven't really gone down that rabbit hole very much, but that's
Well, I think more of it's
sounds
because they want to
weird.
live forever, really. I mean, I think that's why they're trying
Yeah,
to come up with this
that's part of it.
metaverse. They don't want to die,
Yeah.
and they have this idea, this notion that they can somehow
Yes.
live forever.
Transhumanism is a big thing with them. Yeah.
I think there's an entertainment piece to it too, where this is a little bit of a stretch, but hopefully it makes sense to people. I kind of joke around that people. So just to take a small example, like the soccer moms with the knitted scarves on Etsy, right? And people get mad, and then they say, "Oh." Sorry if anybody likes the Kardashians, but like here's a new season of the Kardashians to distract you, you know, and fill your brain with all this dopamine, living vicariously through the lives of these really ridiculous people. And you know, I think there's a lot of that kind of programming that goes on. Like, okay, here we're going to do this terrible thing to you, but here we're going to entertain you, and you're going to be happy. So it goes back to that, like you'll own nothing and you'll be happy.
Yeah.
That's where I think the metaverse piece of it comes in. Like, oh, we're sorry you live in, you know, this beehive building with 30,000 other people, and that the water doesn't work most of the time, and that the plumbing doesn't work. But here, plug into your metaverse, and you can pretend that you live like a Kardashian, you know. And that's how I see that being used.
Goes back to that psychological warfare stuff that we were kind of talking about before, huh?
And people will go for it because, you know, all that stuff's addicting. You know, it hits on the dopamine, whether it's fake or not. Your brain doesn't know the difference, you know. It's dopamine, and your brain just says, shoot, give me some more of that dopamine. That's what I like, baby. And they can control, they know that they can control the population by giving you the metaverse Kardashians, basically.
We always like refer back to Orwell, and we always, you know, compare 1984 and all that. I mean, this really, if you look at it, is kind of more online of what Aldous Huxley was writing back about in Brave New World. This is a pharmacological society that we're living in, where there's a pill for everything, and it's all anesthetize yourself to, you know, quell the pain and all that. And it just, you know, like Sarge was saying, it just leads us down the primrose path, and we're so anesthetized we don't notice what's going on.
The peasants won't revolt if they can plug into the metaverse for 6 hours a night and then go back to work the next day to make more money for the machine.
Well, they're kind of already doing that now, aren't they? I mean, most people are so on their phone and technology and just, you know, vegging out on TikTok.
That's where I think it comes from, though, is like they see what they can do now by just throwing distractions and entertainment at you. And like now we can put this on steroids, and you'll never forget that. You'll never even think about that.
It'll be just like the Matrix.
If you want to see something really creepy, I saw an article. I didn't talk about it on a video. I started to, but it talked about how they asked an AI, I don't know what they call it, to they asked the AI, what will humans look like in the metaverse after they've been in there a while? And it was freaky looking. I mean, they had like,
I saw that.
Did you see that? It's like they were merged with machines, and they had a computer in their head.
It looked like
the mouth was gone.
Nuclear apocalypse movie.
It did. It looked. It was super. It was.
Can you load that up for us, PrepperNow?
If you just or you just
I need to
Google
see
it.
it.
You'll see
You
it.
know, what's
It is.
interesting about you guys bringing that up is that I actually read an article the other day directly from the WEF, and they were stating that these new brain implants are going to further enhance our abilities and make us superhuman. And they say that they're going to be better than the drugs that we're currently taking because they won't have all of those side effects. So I see them normalizing all of this language so that it's going to become widely acceptable. Just like they're trying to do with eating the bugs and, you know, changing our pronouns and all of this stuff. But it's interesting that you brought that up because of that brain implant article that I just saw. And they're not even hiding this stuff. I mean, this stuff is like right there. You just got to go to their website directly. The same thing on WHO. It's, you know, you don't even have to get it from an alternative news source. You can just go directly to their website and it's right there in the open.
Somebody said always cook your bugs thoroughly.
Well, there's something to be said about this, like sociological. We are hardwired to go with the crowd. You know, we really are. And they understand. They've got people with big old brains back there thinking about this stuff, saying, how can we? I mean, well, there was a thing that just came out, how, I forget who it was. I think it was Rockefeller. But they had a big group of these big brains in there saying, how can we get people to do more of an uptake of, you know, medical interventions and stuff? And they're sitting around and they're thinking about, like, how can we sell this to people? What can we do? There's not enough people. And that's what all this is. It's just basically trying to get a way to make it so more and more people do it, because the more and more people that do it, the more and more our brains will be like, well, everybody else is doing it. I might as well go jump off that cliff, you know?
Mm-hmm. Like a bunch of lemmings. So my last question for you guys is, how do you think that we can be better prepared for a dollar collapse scenario?
Definitely learn some self-sufficiency, you know, whether it be definitely growing your own food, have a way to purify water is probably most important than anything else. Build relationships with people, because, you know, the people you can trust, because you're going to need that. You know, I know this channel's faith-based, and I'm a person of faith as well. So I would say look to that, you know, find where your true meaning is, because that image of is trying to be confused by powers. You know, what really is God? Where is our source? You know, make sure you stay true to that. That's going to be super important too, because tough times are going to be ahead.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I think first and foremost, pray and keep your walk with God, because we are, like you said, in a battle for our souls, and the beast system is coming. They're trying to bring it in. So we must stay prepared spiritually, but also physically and mentally, and take care of ourselves physically as best we can for what's coming. And then I think barter items might be a good thing also to stock up on. I'm thinking maybe I don't know, what underground economy might develop. I don't know exactly what that would look like, unless it's just a barter system, and maybe depending on where you are with certain. And if you think about it, there are large segments of population really just operate on cash only right now. So I don't, you know, that it would be interesting to see how that happens. But just preparing being as self-sufficient as possible as well. Water, whatever you can grow.
So yeah, self-sufficiency. Absolutely. I looked it up in 2021. I think it was 19% of most of the transactions were done in cash, and it's down 7%, and I bet it's down even further this year. So every year we get a little bit you know, more away from cash, and we have to keep that in the system. But as you were telling about, you know, just, you know, prepping for your soul, essentially, you know, I've learned, at least as of late, that I always think I'm not doing things officially enough or in the right way or whatever. We got to put all that aside. We have to kind of just be like, you know what, I got to talk to God real quick and go over the corner and just talk. You know, just get it off your chest. I was in today at my job, and I had a moment where I just wanted to thank him. You know, and I got down on my knee and I'm doing my thing and all that. But it wasn't anything. It used to be I'd be like, oh, I've got to go to the bathroom. What if someone walks in on me, or I got to go do this and do it a certain way. I don't think that's the way it works. I think people have to just let it happen and follow their heart. And that's what one thing I heard from the others is there's going to be. I feel like there's going to be a lot of deception. They call
Oh,
Satan
yes.
the great deceiver, right? So I think there's going to be a lot of deception on a lot of levels, and it's going to be more important to have your faith based in your heart, because your heart to thine own heart be true. I think if you keep God in there and you ask that question to your heart and you don't believe with your eyes what you know with your heart, you're going to be better set up to get through this than what a lot of people are doing.
I love that. That was just so beautifully said. And I couldn't agree more.
And the whole time I thought I was saying it horribly.
No, you didn't. Oh my goodness. See, you've got that same, you and I, we have that.
Exactly. I was just about to say, we have talked about this.
We have this thing where it's like, we just, it's this whole imposter syndrome where you don't feel like you're good enough, or you're not saying it right, or, people are looking at every little thing that you're saying and criticizing it. But it's like, we've got to start moving past that and realizing that there are other people that do think similarly to us, and that we're not tripping over ourselves, and really stop being so critical of ourselves,
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's definitely, but I agree with everything you guys said. I mean, for me, obviously you guys know that this is a faith-based channel and I am a Christian and I wear it on my sleeve. I'm not going to hide it. And I just, I really feel like we are going to have to be closer to God than ever, because we are going to need spiritual discernment in order to go through the next years that are coming. They're not going to be easy times. They're going to be difficult times, and we're going to need him to rely on, because for me, I feel a lot like, the spiritual and the mental go hand in hand. They really do, for me anyway. And yes, we need to be physically prepared as well. And so self-sufficiency needs to be at the top of the list if you can. And I know not everyone can grow a garden because of their location, but I think even taking steps in that direction is a good idea, or teaming up with someone that who is a prepper that does have the space and would allow you to maybe plant some things there and get your hand in it and, just learn to grow something. And I really feel like reaching out and building community is going to be so important. And that's why on my channel, I recently announced that I am starting a group in Colorado. We had our first meeting on Tuesday. I was really excited about it. It went really well. And so that is something that I'm going to be doing every 2 weeks at 6 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And so if there are any of you that haven't heard about this, I'm doing it for Colorado. I'm going to be doing it through Google Meet. And so we're going to be doing that every couple weeks and just getting to know each other. We're not going to be sharing a bunch of stuff, personal stuff about us, just surface level things to kind of get to know each other. We're going to baby step it and, just really focus on anything that we feel like are areas of weaknesses that we could really learn and grow from each other. And I think if it evolves into something bigger and we can start meeting in person, or we get large enough to where we can break off into smaller groups in our areas, that is the goal. And that's what I want. I want everybody to start thinking about, where can I connect with others? How can I build community? Because there is strength in numbers. We can't do this on our own. So that's just what I've been thinking a lot about lately. So I did want to go ahead and open this up now for some Q&A. Do you guys have any questions for us? If you do, could you please put them in all caps so I can see them? It looks like Prepper, is that a question for the panel? What's wrong with having a standard currency exclusively within the Prepper community? I mean, nothing really, as long as we can. The problem with it that I see, the biggest problem, is building this community to where it's connected is the issue that I see. So if you're going to have a currency like that, then you need to be able to effectively connect the network of preppers. And I think that's where we're all struggling right now, is how do we do this? Because I know that Jason has talked a lot about it on Angry Prepper. I know that Mike from Hudson Valley Prepping and Survival, we're all trying to navigate this and figure out, how do we start building these groups and really connect them? Did you guys have anything you wanted to add to that?
I was going to say, if I could have it my way, we'd all transact in gold and silver, but I know that's not going to happen. So, I mean, I forget who was talking about the barter thing. I don't drink anymore, but I have a very robust collection of liquor. And the reason why is because I know that if something were to really go down, I could go, hey, here's a bottle of Stoli vodka. Can you do this for me? Trust me, someone would do it. They'd be like, oh yeah, I can help you, move
Mm-hmm.
that, or, lift that something over there, or whatever, give
Sure.
you a couple hours worth of work, so I think it's important to have those kind of options. But as for like a standard, coin, I don't think Prepper coin will be coming out anytime, but, um, I just think barter will, if they do put the CBDC in, and I think it's a matter of time,
Yes,
barter will happen, and people will find other ways around it. I don't know exactly what that'll look like. It'll probably be through skills and labor and,
I agree.
precious metals, or, whatever. But people will find a way, and so. But that's not to say it's going to be okay. I'm just saying we shouldn't have to get to that point.
No, we shouldn't. It's really a sad situation that we even have to have that conversation, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
We
Yes.
need a PrepperNow coin.
Huh.
PN on that thing.
Oh man, the PNC, huh? I already got my own bank. Right?
I love it.
Oh man, I think that's great.
It is great.
Yeah.
Somebody
There is-
here. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, there's black market currency right now. It's just not standardized. I mean, your audience probably doesn't know, but some of them are watch my videos too. I'm a therapist by trade, and so I work with people with all kinds of different things, including with addictions. And in the substance abuse community, there's a black market currency. There's several actually, but people will trade bottles of Tide for drugs. Tide is a black market currency.
Oh my gosh, I did not know that, because I've wondered why they're locked up. They're locked up in my Walmarts, and I'm going, why are they locking up the Tide? None of the other detergents is just the Tide.
Yeah. It's a black market currency.
Okay, now I get it.
Of course, in the I'm not trying to put bad stuff out there about Tide. Tide is a great product, but of course in the prison systems there's black market currencies. There's legal issues aside, because the bartering issue, there is some legalities around the bartering because they want to control it. But legal issues aside, there's nothing for you that says you can't trade an ounce of silver for a couple hours of labor or whatever. And in areas where we have had currency collapse, like Argentina and the collapse of the USSR, there was bartering systems set up. The security people say, so if you go on a lot of prepper firms, they'll say, well, it wouldn't be safe to transact there. Well, how that worked was sometimes it was organized crime that was providing the security. Sometimes it was off-duty law enforcement that was providing the security, just kind of depended on the situation. But safe places are set up for people to go and trade in collapse situations. Now, the United States would be a very unique situation because we are probably more prone to violence than most other countries, and we're the most well-armed country in the world. So it may not happen right away in a collapse scenario, but I think eventually it would evolve into that.
That's really interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Furfel, I think everybody's probably read Furfel's books, but he talks about how all that stuff worked in Argentina after their monetary system collapsed, and people would go. You got it right there. Yeah, and I know. I think Lee.
Yes, he's doing a book club on it right now. So yeah. If you guys haven't seen Lee, he should still be in the chat. Maybe it's Cold War Prepper. You need to check out his channel. He does these awesome book clubs where we get to review a book. And this is the one that we're doing right now, is Surviving the Economic Collapse. So it's really, really interesting. I haven't read the book before, so I'm learning stuff. Do you guys see any other questions? Because I haven't seen any. I did see one up there that I wanted to mention real quick, because I know that Mama Mia asked if anybody is on Telegram. I know that PrepperNow is on Telegram.
Yep, I am.
I don't think. Are you guys on Telegram?
I'm on my channel's not. I do look at Telegram. I do use that for news and looking at some other things, but I don't. Prepper Dawg's not on there.
Yeah, no, I don't use it.
I can barely keep up with YouTube.
Telegram is really good, especially for things as it pertains to real time, like what's going on in Eastern Europe. There's some great channels and I follow from all over. I follow that are, pro West, pro East, and it's interesting. And then some are just like, military intel and stuff like that. But you can get some great stuff on there. I learned a lot, especially as it pertains to certain things in the health realm and in the war realm and other stuff. Telegram is great, but you can definitely go down some rabbit holes and wake up a couple hours later with your eyes crossed, going, "What the heck you were doing?" But yeah, I think it's good. I forget who I was talking about. If you're spending all of your time online and on Telegram and watching this and watching that, and I can, be busted for this. It's probably not healthy. You should be doing the things. You should be out there getting your whatever it is that you got going for you, kind of squared away and ready. Because I really do think we're basically on the precipice of the big show. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I agree.
Completely. Callie, it's PrepperNow's channel that is on Telegram.
yep, I have links in the description. I've got 3 different groups. But I kind of mirror post to all of them. One I call avant-garde, and it's, people sharing some crazy stuff and place for people to connect. There's a few hundred people on that one, but then I've just got like a straight news one that's about 500 people, where I'll put stuff on there and people can comment, but it's not as interactive as the others. People tend to like that one more, so they can go in and say, "Oh, what's going on crazy in the world?" and pick it up. And like today, when I found out about the Nord Stream, I immediately put that into Telegram to put that into people's minds, because it's a big move.
So Renata asked a question: do you think religious beliefs will override this? I mean, I guess I don't really understand. Do you guys understand the question entirely? I get
Override, mean the death of the dollar?
what's happening. I don't think that they can override it. I think what's
Well,
happening is that go ahead, PrepperNow.
Well, I was going to say, let's just look at it from just religious, thoughts, like views and all that. I think what's going to happen is that the wheat's going to get separated from the chaff. I think a lot of people are going to go along to get along. They're going to give up the faith. They're going to want to be a part of the system. And a lot of people are going to leave the church. And, this is, of course, spoken about. And that's going to get rolling. And then the people that are really into their faith and the people that really are following God and listening to their heart and doing all the things that they're supposed to do, they're the ones that will really get enveloped into it and have that lead them. And then you'll basically, I think those people will be, we're talking, I think Prepper Dawg was talking about how Christians are being shunned and attacked right now. That's when you're really going to see the attacks and everything come. And they're already laying the little seeds for that kind of stuff. But that's what's going to happen. I think that's what's going to really happen, is that most people are going to just go away from the faith, but there's going to be a group of people that are going to really get into it and invest into it because they think it's the only answer, and it is. And then from there, it's gonna get crazy.
I agree. It'll ramp up persecution to a level where people will be surprised by it, and so they'll, like you say, go along to get along, take the easy route. Where are the pastors? I mean, I would like to see more outspokenness, and even some of the more elected leaders speak out. I mean, there's a lot of silence, and that'll continue.
Wow, Johnny Finance, thank you so much. You did not have to do that, but I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. He says, thank you for putting this panel together tonight. Got to check out Happy Wife, Happy Life. Yes. I'm sure PrepperNow needs to check out here soon too.
Actually, I think she's asleep. Usually she peeks her head in with googly eyes, and I think she's down for the
Because
count
she's
tonight with
unwell.
Rona.
Yeah.
So,
Oh my goodness.
I hope she feels better.
Me too.
Yeah, she'll be okay. We're, like I said, this is round 2. We had it back in February. And for those that don't know, she literally works around it 24/7. She treats. She's an NP, a nurse practitioner, and so she treats people. She doesn't give it. Oh, what should you give it? No. She's the one that gets them when they're already sick and takes care of them and that kind of stuff. The nurses do that regular stuff, but she's probably down for the count right now. So I can talk. It's great. I normally don't get this time.
Prepping with Sarge, did you want to add anything to that question?
Just I think that unfortunately, like most of everything else, I think that whatever happens, the majority of the people is going to go along with whatever the narrative that comes out of media is, and the media narrative is going to be based on whatever the government tells them to say.
Yep.
So more of the same, amplified, unfortunately. We've greatly lost the ability to do critical thinking, and not just lost it. It's actually being purposefully suppressed now.
Oh, yeah.
Any dissenting voice, like you just have a different opinion, and there's a pretty good chance that you're going to get censored or booted off social media or whatever. So there'll be more and more of that, because it's just unfortunately I see most people going along with that. Probably a good warning sign was thinking back to, not to glorify Snowden at all, because I don't think of him like that, but before he came out and said the government's listening to your phone calls, I distinctly remember President Obama saying, "Nobody, stop being ridiculous. Nobody's listening to your phone calls," right? And so then it came out, and that should have been like a huge wake up call.
Mm-hmm.
That should have been huge. Like, people should have been like, "This is BS. Why is our privacy not being respected? That's your Fifth Amendment, right?" Like, there should have been huge outcry, and people just went, "Oh, that's really bad. Oh, look, the Kardashians are on."
Right.
And that's unfortunately, I think, what's going to happen with all of this. So be true to yourself, Renata, and anyone else who wonders that. Be firm, stand in your faith, and make the right decisions for your family. But I don't know if I'm interpreting the question right, but I don't see enough people standing up to all these changes that are
right.
coming.
We need mass non-compliance,
and it's not going to happen.
Something. Yeah, I mean, we've kind of seen that already. And just from a biblical standpoint, as we were talking about, I mean, this stuff has been foretold. So the notion that we can somehow keep it from happening, it's going to happen eventually. We're only going to be able to suppress it for so long before, this stuff does take place. And when I think of religious, I guess I think of, more strict, more, religion. I think for me, I look at it as more of a personal relationship with Christ. And I think that's what you need to be most focused on, is that personal relationship and developing that.
Colorado. Yeah, we're like almost done. She woke up.
Oh, well, hello.
You have cookies?
Oh, gonna bribe him with some cookies.
Hold on, I've been telling you got the run. How you feeling?
I'm okay.
You okay? Yeah. Okay, you look better than you did yesterday.
That's good.
Well,
yeah, I think we've gone from train wreck to slight accident on the side of the road. So yeah, doing good. Doing good. All right. 3 more hours, honey. I'll be back.
We're gonna wrap it up, I think, anyways. I don't really see any other questions. Hopefully I didn't miss any. If I did, I apologize. Sometimes I'll go back through and then pin something. I've done that before for people if I've missed something. I did want to go ahead and close with a couple of scriptures. It's just something that I do every time we end these. I love doing that. I know Dawg does that on his channel every time too. And I just think it's a wonderful way to kind of wrap everything up. So the first one that I wanted to share with you guys is in Isaiah 40, verse 29. He gives power to the weak, and to those who have no might, he increases strength. So he is our strength, and we do have that source of strength in the Lord. And the last one that I wanted to share with you guys is, the Lord is my light and my salvation. Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the strength of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? And that is Psalm 27, verse 1.
Amen.
So we don't need to be afraid. We have the Lord in our corner, and he is there with us.
Definitely.
Alrighty, guys. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up then. Thank you guys so much for joining me. And if you guys have not subscribed to these wonderful channels, please go over and check them out. They are a wealth of knowledge. They're wonderful people. They're great friends. They do a lot for the community, and I appreciate all of them. So if you guys would support them, I would greatly appreciate that. And thank you so much for joining us tonight. We appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are this community. You help make this community, and we couldn't do this without you. So we greatly appreciate you all. So have a wonderful weekend, a long weekend, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks for having us.